All right, welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. We're glad you're here joining us today. Today we have just an incredible guest, Joshua Delp, a faith-driven leader, pastor, and leadership strategist who's passionate about helping people experience breakthrough and walk in their walk boldly with God.
Mhm.
For more than a decade, Joshua served in full-time ministry before founding Rising Leadership. It's a coaching and consulting practice equipping leaders and organizations to lead with clarity, conviction, and strategic effectiveness. He's also the founder of Risen Men, a growing community helping men strengthen their faith, leadership, and emotional intelligence. And the soon to be launched, and unless he's already launched it since we talked last, the Risen Project, which expands that mission even further. Joshua is a firm believer in the dignity and potential of all people. He's passionate about seeing individuals thrive and purpose driven organizations prevail. And he's relentless in leveraging his God given gifts for the good of the world. He lives in bright and beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, with his wife Lisa and their family, building a life and ministry rooted in faith, integrity, and impact. So please welcome Joshua Delp. Joshua, brother, it is great to have you here today.
It is an honor to be with you, Pat.
Well, I got to start off with that. We were talking a few weeks ago offline, and I love that. I put it in my quotable quotes notes in a diary I keep, and it is this is what you said to me. Common sense is not common practice, and I
Mm.
love that perspective, and I want to jump into because when we were talking offline, one of the things that you really highlighted were really passionate about is how a coaching session or process transform your life that
Yeah,
you had been living for the prior 10 years or so.
yeah,
Can you kind of set up for us what that life was before that coaching session
yeah,
and how that coaching completely transformed your life?
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking, man. So background, um, I come from a broken upbringing, had a real difficult childhood, stuttered, grew up stuttering very badly, so way worse than I do now. I still get a little blocked up. I still get a little of a stammer in there. So if I get a little blocked up, just bear with me.
Yeah.
I'm usually just getting ahead. My mind works faster than my um, speech muscles, and I got saved. I don't know your faith background. We've discussed a little bit or
Yeah.
of the leaders, but if you're a warrior servant podcast, that sounds like a faith-driven leader to me. But yeah, I got saved, man. Jesus, he like, literally, I got woken up out of bed January 21st, 2007. I was living a life of sin and just broken, man, just lost, just trying, had no idea what it meant to be a man, doing the worldly thing of, do the alpha male thing, be successful, get the hot girl, da 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 da. And I was a jujitsu fighter, a bouncer in downtown Orlando, and a DJ. So I was out till 3:45 the night before. And then God woke me up out of bed. He literally said, "Wake up, you're going to church." And I walked into a amazing house of worship that morning. I put my sports coat on. I woke up in a right state of mind, even though I shouldn't have been in a right state of mind. Put on a sports coat because I thought that's what you do. You dress nice at church, even though I never wear sports coats. And I walked into church and I had this overwhelming sense of I've come home. And I think God brought me home that day, and that my life has never been the same since. And so, 7 years down that road, I feel the call to go into ministry. And that was never on my radar. Fast forward about 2014. It was, yeah, probably 7 years later, actually, into ministry. I'm pastoring at a church in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I'm over several ministries. I've got literally, I think I had over 250, 300 volunteers I was directly responsible over in multiple different ministries. So big role. Um, some dysfunction in the leadership environment and a growing church, and I was stuck. That's what I call it. The stuck. I was stuck. I was doing everything I knew to do, and it wasn't working. I call that season spinning your wheels, right? If you've ever been stuck in the mud, you're out in, I mean, you're out in Oklahoma, right? Dog go off-roading. And if you get stuck in the mud, man, you hit the gas and just and you don't go nowhere. A lot of a lot of energy being exported, not a lot of movement or results, right? In fact, you can kind of just get worse, right? You can just dig in. And that's where I was, man. I was a leader. I felt very passionate about what I did, the gospel ministry, leading folks, building the lives of others. But I had some blind spots, man. I had some blind spots, and that's a theme I'll revisit. I didn't have the self awareness and the emotional intelligence that I do today. And so I was in that stuck spot for months, and it was becoming stressful. I dreaded Monday mornings. You stay in that spot long enough, man, that starts to looks like a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress and performance pressure. That looks like some discouragement, and I was even headed towards depression, right? You stay in that spot long enough, man, and it's because it's not just about you. If you're a leader, it's like people are relying on you. And if anyone is listening in leadership, they know that weight, right? That pressure. When people are relying on you and you're just not hitting that next level of performance you need to. And so I reached out to some coaches and some mentors, and I finally found a coach who shared my values. I think that was really important. I do believe in growth, development, and coaching. But because as a stutterer, I've had to develop a lot, right? Really had to get mentorship, go through training programs, and so I think coaching in our day has a bit of a, everyone out there online is a coach, and
Yeah.
I thought of it's a bunch of crap. I think the industry has been tainted by a lot of charlatans and folks just profiteering on the online space. That's just a blue ocean out there. But I've had coaches who have changed my life, and one of those men was Dr. Chuck Coker, and he is a man of God. He's a brilliant man. He's founded a company called Life Thrive, and he walked me through a personal formation process that's founded in emotional intelligence. Long story short, he opened the lid on my what was going on inside, and showed me I had some blind spots, that I was self-sabotaging, and he walked me through a process that just lifted that lid off. I got unstuck, I put some new things in place, and it changed my life so much that I got certified in it, and now I help people with that same process. Because if you're a leader, man, the season of stuck is gonna come. You're gonna hit lids in life, and that's when you need someone outside of you to speak in with wisdom, with a process, And man, I say it like this, like Jesus saved my soul, coaching changed my life. And so since then, I've just been on a mission to help as many folks get unstuck, live that life of purpose, because no one wants to give their life to what they think is meaningful, but not feel like they're operating with that sense of like confidence, effectiveness. That sucks. And no one wants to live there, man.
Mm.
And so, but everyone wants to feel like they're a success. Everyone wants to feel like their work is meaningful. And so, yeah, man, it's that stuff. That's
Wow.
that's kind of the journey it's been. And so now it's trying to pay it forward and help as many others as I can. You know, there's some veins of Christianity where it's like, well, Jesus is gonna fix everything. It doesn't work like that, man. It's a process. And oftentimes we're in roles and we're in places where we need personal and professional development. Discipleship is that, right? And so sometimes it can be a both and. I'm not one of these, you don't need anything else but Jesus to make you right with God. And you may need some professional development so you don't suck at what you do. And
Yeah.
so, so I think sometimes folks can kind of pigeonhole things a bit.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you what, a lot to unpack in there. Because one of the things
It's
you're,
a journey, man. It's
yeah,
been a
that's,
journey.
yeah, man. I'm writing. I've been taking notes and everything, and you've actually touched on quite a few topics that I'm working on a TEDx presentation, and
Awesome.
and in that understanding that a life is a journey. You never arrive and go, oh, okay, now I can retire and just get on the lazy river and just float along and see what happens. Because
Right.
the lazy river ride at the theme parks, you always end up right back where you started.
Right.
so there's, that's not a good,
Strategy.
yeah. And I think you really touched on, for me, is what what we in our human condition, what we want and need in life is safety, security, prosperity, and control. Those are our four fundamental basic needs, no matter where you live in the world, what your calling is, what your status in life is. You still have those four needs. And I like how you talked about the coaching that, accepting Jesus in your life, that gets you straight with God, but that doesn't end the journey. It actually
It starts it.
it's just the beginning. And
Yeah.
I'm reminded of, after Christ was baptized by John the Baptist, he went off into the desert for 40 days, and that was a preparation time.
Man.
And then take that 40 days in the desert, physically and spiritually and emotionally, and he's tempted and all those things that go on, and he's by himself. He's, quote unquote, alone, uh, and he comes out of that, and then that he launches his ministry. And then look 3 years ahead, and he's in the garden at Gethsemane, and he's literally sweating blood, and he's praying, and he's asking God, hey, kind of like, I'd call it, this is the slang version of the prayer. Hey, brother, if you really could take this cup away from me, I won't be offended,
Mhm.
but your will be done, not mine.
Mhm.
But what was fascinating to me in both in salvation history and even in as an example for our own personal lives, and what you're saying, and what transformed you, is you did it in community.
Mhm.
You did it with other people, and you're
Yeah.
continuing that journey, just
Yeah.
like Christ had the 12 apostles, and then they sent the
Yeah.
72 out. All those things is the living example of
Yeah.
this is the way it's supposed to work. So I got a weird question for you, and it's going to probably come out of the blue a little bit.
I'm not scared.
Is when you said you were a bouncer and a jiu-jitsu fighter and living a worldly life, did you become a fighter because of your stuttering and your upbringing, and that was your self-defense mechanism to have safety, security, prosperity, and control of your life?
Sure. Um, I like those four pillars. I'll give you three more that are psychological. So those, I think those are like those are like the bottom rungs of
Yeah,
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We all need those just to like function, right? And then he goes into the psychological needs, just above that. And um, I've really learned that the self concept, the to have a positive view of self or a strong sense of identity, you need three things. You need belonging. I think that's that psychological sense of safety and security you need competency, or capability, the feeling that I can handle it, I can do things. And then you need worth, that I matter. And so the psyche is always looking for those three things, and they're going to get it in either God's way or ungodly ways. And so I think most of but looking back, I was really looking for a sense of belonging. And I think I was looking for a sense of that capability or that competency. And I got into that because, I was just in some dysfunctional relationships, and like our place got broken into. I got the crap beat out of me. Like we had to put some guys in jail. After that, I was like, and I had grown up kind of doing martial arts and stuff, but I would gotten out of it. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm getting back into that stuff. And so being in the jujitsu crew, this is pre UFC. This is like when UFC is like just starting to come up. So that was a rough bunch of lads, dude. All those boys were doing jujitsu in the clubs, like yoking out guys. So you just kind of ended up doing security if you were doing jujitsu, man. So, I it was great, man. It was I still love it. I've actually been training CrossFit to get back into shape so I can do jujitsu again, just because I enjoy it, man. It's you do have that sense of belonging, you do have that sense of competence, right? Um, and so yeah, man, I think as a man also, so I work with a lot of men. I think physical discipline,
yeah.
physical fitness, being able to handle yourself is just a vital skill, man, in life. You work in law enforcement, you people outsource that stuff over to you guys, but we see more and more the role of a man is to protect. That's one of the roles. And I think even if you're a small guy, you can learn to protect, you can learn to handle yourself. And I think as a stutterer, when you know how to handle a room, when you can look at anybody in the room and say, I can handle him. That brings a certain level of security, confidence, and brings down some anxiety. I didn't get into it for that reason. Again, this is why physical discipline, I think, is the mother of all disciplines. It breeds into every other area of your life. And so that's why I'm just such a proponent of it.
Uh,
That was a long way to answer that, but
no, no, it's great stuff because I think a lot, particularly for people that are in law enforcement, that whole getting stuck and the burnout because of the stress and pressures that we're put under, and that's in law enforcement. But everyday life, being a parent, being if you're an entrepreneur, or you're not, you may be on a manufacturing line, you're pushing buttons, and
Yeah.
and you can still get that, I call it disillusionment, that
Sure.
this isn't what I signed up for.
Mhm.
We see it in marriages. They
Yeah.
call it whatever 7-year itch or whatever you want to call it, but the is you start getting hit with things that are stresses and
Yeah.
pressures, and you get disillusioned, and then you try to find a way to get unstuck. And I, like you called it, there's healthy ways, and then there's or God ways, and unhealthy ways. What's your, if somebody's out there and they're at their ropes, I don't mean suicidal at the end of the
Mhm.
rope, but they are just, that's it. I've had enough,
Yeah.
and I'm sick and tired. I just want to. I call it retire on duty. I'm I'm just going to quit. I'm going to quit.
Mhm.
You what
I'm gonna do the
what's
bare
your what?
minimum.
Yeah,
I'm
bare minimum.
done giving. I call it my give a shit meter is low.
Yeah, yeah. So what's your? I mean, from a practical, experiential perspective, what do you tell somebody is the first step to take to start on getting back on that journey of clarity?
Yeah, great question. Well, I would first say that I would first start with encouragement. Because when you're in that place, the discouragement is real. It's like you just don't have the give a shit to climb another mountain, man. And it's that internal discouragement that is actually the biggest issue. And so I would start with just valuing them and saying like, hey, you matter, your life matters, you have a calling, again, I approach things from a biblical and a God focused
Mm-hmm.
worldview. I say it like this: you were made on purpose for a purpose by a loving father who has good things in store. And so sometimes, even with and I, as a pastor, I've dealt with a lot of people who are suicidal, and people get there because they lose hope.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lose hope, when you think it can't change, that is a dangerous place. And you can get there, man. You really can. And so, what I always say is I start with hope. And I say it like this: nothing is final. And where you are now is not where you're always going to be. You can come back from anything. You can't come back from a bullet in the brain. You can't do that. That's the only thing you can't come back for. You can come back from anything.
Mm-hmm.
Anything. It does not matter what. You can
Yeah.
come back from anything. I know I'm saying it a few times, but a lot of people just, oh, you don't know my story. I'm like, I don't give a shit your story. I care about you. I care about your story, but I don't care what you've done.
Yeah.
God can do, he can do miracles. You can come back from anything. And so sometimes I have to pound it in there a little bit, just like I'm doing now, because when you're just in that place, it's like, I can't get out of this. I can't. You're believing all this stuff, right? And you feel stuck. You feel hopeless. So we get the mind unstuck, and we place value, put some courage into this individual. And usually then I'll do this. It's really nerdy, but so I've got my clarify you process, or like you say, clarity. I do clarity coaching because most of the time it's not a lack of effort or hard work, it's a lack of clarity and connecting with what matters most. And so I've got a few different ways I can approach it. I'll do something like the 7 F's or the wheel of life. Hey, rate yourself in your faith, family, fitness, finances, friendships, fulfillment, and your freedom, right? It's just this, hey, on a level of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, rate yourself on that and then say why you chose that number. So it's a little subjective self-assessment, but what am I doing? We're zooming out because usually, like when you're in that season, you can't see the forest for the
Tree.
trees. All you can see is your problems. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, we're potty training my 2 year old. My 4 month old isn't sleeping through the night that much. We took a hit financially. We lost a government, a client right at the end of the year last year. We weren't expecting that. So the challenges can get in your face. But so what we do is we zoom out and we look at your whole life and we see what areas are going okay, what areas are not going okay. And usually they'll have a bunch of lower numbers because if you're feeling stuck, you're a bit more like uh, negative, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm like, okay, so, and then I just say, hey, back to the not where you are is not where you are. This is just where you are right now. If you have a GPS, you can't get to where you want to go until you type in your current address. And so just assessing reality a little more objectively. And that's what these kind of things do. I do the wheel of life because there's 12 areas of life that no one gets away from. And I'll just rip through them real quick: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relational, vocational, i.e., work, um, time, uh, service, growth, and technology. No one gets away from any of those. You say, I'm not a service, I don't volunteer. Oh, that just means you suck at it and you're selfish. It doesn't mean you don't
Hmm.
serve because we're called to be a contributor in this world, right? So that's just an example. You can't get away from those 12 things as a human. You can't. Everyone deals with money. The richest to the guy on the street, you're still dealing with money. So, anyways, sometimes just zooming out and getting a kind of an objective 30,000 foot view, and you see, like, oh, my financial life sucks. Oh, I have no friends. Oh, my physical health sucks. Well, those three bad boys are just like are coloring into everything else, right?
Yeah,
And so, well, then we just get some guidance right there now, don't we?
yeah.
Now we can just start to establish, okay, where do you want to be? What are you willing to do? What's the goal? What's that habit? We can move the needle real fast. And once we just, here's where your problems are. So back to the whole common sense isn't common practice. The problem is we've gotten reactive and we can't see the forest for the trees in life. And so we're just not doing the common sense things because we just are just reactive. And so the journey is, I mean, almost anytime someone would come meet with me as a pastor, I was coaching them to regain their agency. They had slipped into victim mode because you take a few hits in life and then they just keep you get behind that
Mm.
8 ball and the hits keep coming and you're like, F man, like I'm just trying to keep my head above water. This is just a way to step back, get some guidance, get some data, if I can use that word. A lot of folks don't use the word data when they think getting unstuck or life strategy. And then identify a few key areas. I call them needle movers, a few high value strategic objectives. Um, like getting your fat ass back in the gym, drinking some water, getting to bed at night. You'd be surprised how some simple stuff people just stop doing because the challenges of life feel overwhelming. But you start building some of those few small wins that are breeding disciplines and breeding health in all the different areas,
Yeah.
and you can move the needle in someone's life really fast, man. It may take some time to dig out of that hole, but you can be walking in a new direction, right? What did Jesus say? Repent, the kingdom of heaven at hand. That word repent is not feel sorry about your sins. It literally means think differently about the way you do life.
Yep.
And so repentance is just that. It's a change in the way you think and orient yourself and believe about life. And so it's a bit of that repentance moment. Man, there's some things I need to change. The problem is, and this is the last thing I'll say, is it's chapter 8 in my book. I call it the coachability quotient because that sounds more nicer and objective. Really, it's usually shame and pride or a mix of the two. Shame and pride will keep you locked into either not being coachable because you're ashamed of where you're at, or your pride is keeping you uncoachable. So you're not letting wisdom in your life and you're lying in the bed you've made and you're too stubborn to change, man. I'll say I'll tie all that together with a bow. Um, One time I was working with a psychotherapist who's just brilliant. I mean, spirit-filled weapon of God, brilliant psychotherapist. And I was in another stuck season, right? This was 3 years later. And I was like, I was stuck in some romantic relationship. I'm like, man, I just can't seem to get through. And she's like, stuck just means you're fear of change. You don't want to change. And so for that person who's stuck, practically speaking, you just need to own it. You need to change some things. If what you're doing isn't working, it's time to try something else.
Yeah. That's, yeah. It kind of reminds me, it's almost scriptural, is whatever you're looking for, you're always going to find more of it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for reasons to be mad at somebody, to be angry at circumstances or whatever, you're going to find more reasons. And if you're
Yeah,
looking to find the worst in somebody because they're a POS and you can't stand them, you're never going to see the good in that person because you're not looking for it.
that's
And I think,
great.
and the same thing when you're talking about being stuck is you're so, I call it myopic. You know, you're
Yeah.
so nearsighted,
Hmm.
of focusing on and looking at what your problems are or what
Yeah.
your anxieties are or whatever that you call take the 30,000 foot look, which I think is a great analogy. And if you can get that bigger picture and understand, you know, you can't change all 12 things that you went through
Yeah.
at one time. So, what
But
is
you
the
can
most?
change like two or
Yeah, yeah.
three.
Focus. Look at okay. What I call it the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It's like hey, like you said, I'm fat. I'm overweight. I don't have any energy and whatnot. Okay, well, that's a low hanging fruit. Is
Let's start there.
something as simple as what? Go out and walk a half mile every day, and you know this from experience and from training that when you set goals and reach them psychologically and physiologically,
Momentum.
it has a positive effect on you. And
Yep.
then it gives you that confidence. It gives you that control of
Mhm.
I set this goal that I was going to walk whatever 10,000 steps today,
Yeah.
and I did it. Now I have that success I'm
Correct.
carrying instead of the burden. So
I call
great.
it small wins. You got to start building
Yeah.
stack small wins. So when I started, we don't set black belt goals,
Yeah.
we set white belt goals. Because everyone's like, I'm gonna lose 50 pounds and I'm gonna bench and I'm gonna look good in my I'm gonna have abs by summer. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you're gonna do is you're gonna drink 3 of these every day, and you're gonna go on a walk because it may not even be that. It may be drink 1 of these a day, go outside. So I had a patch of burnout in ministry, and it was brutal, dude. And do you know what my small stack, my first win I'd stack every day was? This will show you where I was at. It was to walk the dog, man. It was to go outside and walk the dog around the lake. If I could get outside, get sun on my face, move a little bit, it was just like, okay, I've done this. Like that was it. And if I did that, anything else was a win. Because there were days I'm like, I just wanted to sit in a hole. And so it was literally the goal was walk the dog. And so if someone's in a depressed state, if they're really burnt out, you speak with I know that you do a lot of uh, training with law enforcement. The burnout is real. I would say this will be the last thing I say is look at stacking some small wins that will give you what you call it a boost of positive psychology. I just call it momentum. It's going to get the ball rolling because you're going to return to that sense of agency. You're going to feel like, okay, I can do some things here, man.
Hmm.
It starts to breed a little sense of competence and confidence. I feel a little more capable. Hey, I did it. I got a win because we're wired for winning. And then you get the serotonin, the dopamine starts going in the right direction. So just stacking those small wins, make the bed, go on a walk,
Yeah.
send out 3 gratitude texts or even 1 gratitude text. Just get some things like, hey, I can do this every day, and they're positive. You'd be surprised, man. You start knocking over a few of those little dominoes. It starts breeding and breathing in a little fresh wind of resilience in you. You're like, okay, I can still do some things even when I'm in this bad a spot. Okay, I can we can get back to normal here. So, I don't know if you do any resiliency training, but um, we can go into that if you'd like a bit. But just stacking those small wins can help build a little resilience, a little bounce back ability.
Yeah. No, and we were talking offline before we jumped on of intellectual and developmental disabilities that when
Sure,
you're interacting with people who aren't wired the same way, they're not neurotypical,
sure.
uh, and how it, and you even explained to me that for you live this every day of having stress and pressure and having small wins and strategies in place as simple as doing the box breathing. You
Mm,
in hold it for 4 and whatnot. That and then breathe out, and that gives you back the
control.
confidence, the competency, the
Right.
control,
Yeah.
and so you're practicing it every day because it is a condition that you experience every day. And I think one of the biggest problems with men in particular, whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical, it doesn't matter. You were brought up this way, and I was brought up this way. If you want it done right, do it yourself. And that puts so much stress and pressure on a person that
Yeah.
fear of failing or
Yeah.
fear of someone else failing, then it's going to reflect negatively on you because you're the boss or
Yeah.
whatever. How do you practical stepwise is and whether it's a vision board or putting post-it notes or whatever, what are some just real simple, down to earth ways that people that believe, and I'm specifically directing this at men because it was pounded into me as a kid. If you want it done right, do it yourself. You can't count on anybody else. That kind of mindset.
Mhm.
How do you daily reinforce that mindset? Because I read a research recently that we have 50,000 thoughts a day,
Mhm.
and 80% of them are negative.
Yeah.
Yes, that's 40,000 times a day. I can't do this. Why is this happening to me?
Mhm.
You have all these negative thoughts, and you only got 10,000 in there that are positive. So, how do you reinforce that repetition for that mindset of clarity and
Mhm.
moving forward in your journey?
Um, I think that I'll give you a few thoughts. One is I think that, well, one, let me just embrace reality. Our minds are built for survival. They're survival mechanisms. And so it's easy to kind of even internalize the negative, the fact that we think all the negative thoughts as a negative. There's something wrong with me. That's part of the survival traits, is like we're looking for the negative, because back in the day it's like a bush moved, a saber-toothed tiger is going to kill me. Now it's someone, a bush moves, it's a squirrel in the tree. It's We're in a different day and age, but the vigilance is still there. And um, so that is just the mechanism, right? The mechanism is looking for survival. And so, and knowing that, yeah, again, I'm a pastor, but I'll back it up with the brain science. You know, 2,000 years, St. Paul said, take every thought captive and conform it to Christ, i.e., you've got to learn to harness these thoughts, because if not, they're going to run away with you, right? And there's so much thought these and research out there about being able, we talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, right? You can actually watch your thoughts. You can, oh, I'm thinking about this right now. Like a Tesla cut me off in traffic and endangered my wife and young daughter. I'm like, I wanted to kill this dude. I literally wanted to run him off the road. And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking angrily and violently right now. I had to rein it in. I'm like, this is not Christian of me to think this way. I was angry, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you can learn that skill of, um yours may look a little different than mine, but I think the enemy is in the business of the victim mindset, is in the business of powerlessness. And so what he does is, like, things happen and we feel disempowered and we get into that powerless victim mindset. That's the slide. It's from victim or responsible victor. Either I'm at effect or I'm doing something about it. And it's just a scale that's in all of us. And so, one I would just say is, I try to be aware of what's going on in me. And usually when I'm frustrated, when I'm grumpy, when I'm angry, I'm actually kind of what you don't even realize, you're acting like a victim. Because there's something outside of me I'm angry at that I'm not doing anything about it. And so I think just knowing that is, okay, my brain's wired for survival. Um, you're Depending on the way that you grew up, you may slide into the victim role easier, or the villain role. Maybe you slide into the villain role. And the difference between the victim, the villain, and the victor is just what they do with the pain and the challenge when it comes.
Hmm.
And so that's the next piece is I lived a lot of my life in the victim role. And so for me, it's taking responsibility to do what I can. You can really make things very simple in life. It's what you can do something about and what you can't do something
Yeah.
about. And so I'm like, I try to live in the what can I do about this? And so that is that would be one of my core values. And this is usually what I do with from an organization all the way down to a stay-at-home mom on the scale. Not saying that organization is more important than a mom, but we all have to define the core values we're going to live and die by. And you asked me how do I renew my mind? One, I realize I got to renew my mind. Then I have to decide what I'm going to renew my mind to. And for me, it's biblical values. It's values that are true to me. So responsibility, agency, integrity. Some of these things, purity, right? Like sexuality and rampant unhealthy sexuality is everywhere. You flip to the wrong Instagram page and you're like bombarded. And I'm like, I'm a married man. That's not my wife. I'm faithful to my wife. And so, right. And so I took captive the thought and I have it's something else it bows to. And so I do this with, like I said, from the young man who doesn't have a job, who feels like a loser, to I work with a nuclear weapons agency and one of their business units. And it's like, okay, what are the hills we're gonna die on? And that can
Yeah.
make it easier because sometimes it's like, I'll get this circumstance or this question, and I'm like, whoa, like it doesn't matter in a sense. That's context and that's important, but you really haven't espoused those values that this is who I'm gonna be. So when whatever thing comes, doesn't matter the challenge, this is what we're gonna fight
Yeah.
for. And so I would say again, you can change and rewire your brain, but you got to choose what you're going to rewire it
Yeah. Too.
to. It's not just, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. I
That's
had.
why AA works,
Yeah.
by the way. That's why faith works, is because it's not just, I'm no longer that. I am now this. I put on Christ, right? I renew my mind, right? I'm transformed by the renewing of my mind into putting on the new thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the themes that's running through what you're sharing is the whole concept of repetition. And I like to think of it in that way. One of the first things I thought of when you were saying is, in that theme of repetition, and you may not be old enough to even remember this, but however many years ago it was, the big fad or craze, if you will, was the wristbands that had WWJD.
Oh, sure.
What would Jesus do? And that was
Right.
a visual reminder of
Sure.
repetition. It's right there on my wrist that as I face opportunities, as I face obstacles, I remind myself because I have it literally on my wrist. What would Jesus do? And that whole transformation, it takes repetition to learn a new
Yeah.
skill, if you will, and we all did it. It's as basic as this: how'd you learn your ABCs? That
Yeah.
stupid song, and you just kept
Um,
repeat,
yeah.
and now it's going through your mind right now because I just reminded you of it,
Yeah.
and that's how we learned The alphabet was the repetition through the rhythm of the song, and it's no different of renewing and changing how your mindset is about when you get cut off on the highway, or even in the positive way. The positive opportunities.
Yeah.
If it's ego driven, ego is the enemy,
Mhm.
and it's like one time I didn't apply. I was recruited to join the Secret Service. They came to me,
Uh-huh.
and it was like, oh, what a prestigious opportunity and everything. Until my wife, we were talking about it, whether I should accept the offer, and she point blank said to me, "How many Secret Service agents do you know that are still married?" And it was
Mm.
like, holy crap. There was four that I personally knew in the office in Dayton, Ohio, and at that time, every one of them was divorced.
Yeah, well,
And so that
you
having
had a
those,
clarifying moment of what your values were
yeah,
there.
and it was a tremendous. I thought in the egocentric way, what a great opportunity to be, a part of, being eventually being on the personal detail, protecting our president of the United States and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, the shiny objects, the squirrel, oh, like you're a hunting dog and oh, there's a rabbit and you take
Yeah.
off after a kind of deal.
Yeah.
That happens in real life, and so to be grounded, like you're talking about, in those core values is so
Well,
important.
let me just go on to that was kind of 101. Let's go to 201. So once you're at back in the agency, you're back in responsibility, you identify those values get birthed out into the future. And the longer I am alive, the more I am just like, we must have vision for our lives. We're talking about the bit you said, how do I keep my mindset of growth and clarity present? You're really asking me is how do we become the person we want to be? How do we transform our lives into something that's worthwhile rather than just dealing with the shit of life? And can we say you've lived it, man? You're in the streets, man, or you were. Life is suffering at times. It's not easy. It's ugly. There's death. There's pain. There's loss. There's dysfunction
Mm.
out there. There's addiction. There's all manner of ungodliness out there in the world. There's human sex. I mean, life can be brutal, but how do you get out of that place? And there's a scripture, it says, without vision, the people perish. What I just had described is the life of survival and perishing, where you're just getting by, man. And life is just it's a perishing. And vision a compelling future with meaning for your life that is worth living for. And that's what values help do is they're like the kind of the framework of a life that's going to lead towards a vision, right? And so there's got to be a compelling vision. And so with me, I'm trying to be a generational change agent. My dad was an alcoholic. He died early. His dad was an alcoholic. I'm tempted with that. I used to live a riotous lifestyle, but and my parents were divorced. I mean, I still love them, but them all and all that stuff. But like, I'm the first one that got saved. I mean, my uncle's a bishop, but we see things a little differently. Like in the Delp line, no one's really living for God. And I'm changing that crap, man. My wife and I, and my children will be blessed. Like I have something like I have to that relies on me, right? And so that vision of being a generational change agent, being someone who makes a difference in the world. These are some of the things that seeing the potential in folks unlock. Like that's the stuff that I want to live a life that's doing those things. And so a vision that pulls you into the future makes it easier for you to, okay, I'm back in that space. That's not who I want. That's not going to lead me to that life I want to live. And then it just gets kind of practical. I can give you a few quick practical things. Is I've got my vision, I've got my values, I've got my identity statements written out. I
Mhm.
revisit them regularly. So I'm literally renewing my mind. And then even things like I've got r- r- reminders on my phone that populate at different times in the day. At 8 a.m., Lord, reach someone through me today. Um, I am powerful, loving, and self disciplined by the power of the Holy Spirit, right? I
Mhm.
literally have reminders on my phone that populate and up, bring me back. And so you can get tactical with this stuff. And the last thing I say is we view our lives through stories.
Yeah.
And so I would say watch movies and read books about real life people or even fictional characters that inspire you and make you like you know what I mean, who give you a sense of inspiration and vision in life.
Yeah.
I love reading the biographies of um, the leaders of revivals and great moves of God, like Hudson Taylor and his inland missions in China. If you've never read the biography of Hudson Taylor, read it. You will be inspired to like, God, like, may my life be used by you to make a difference in this world, right? Like, but that's not where I wake up on a Tuesday morning. I'm a grumpy asshole and I'm tired and the kids weren't sleeping. And like, you've got to reconnect with any way you can of that higher vision of who God could use you to be. And so those are just a few of the ways that I try to, man.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. On my phone, I have an app. It's a Catholic app. It's called Laudate, Laudate, and
Mm,
the first thing I do every morning after I make my coffee, because
of
I'm
course.
grumpy. I'm grumpy
Of
until
course.
I had that. Is
Okay.
I don't scroll the news. I don't scroll LinkedIn or Substack or all those other things that I have platforms for.
Sure.
I go to Laudate and I read about the saint of the day,
Mm.
and to see how everyday people. And today it was Saint Agnes, and she was a third century 12 or 13-year-old that was forced and she was a Christian, and forced was taken to a temple to Athena, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
submit to this god, and by the way, you're going to be raped, or
Oh,
you
wow.
die, and she goes, then I die. My commitment, my value, my belief, my faith is in Christ, and not that statue standing over there called Athena.
Amen.
So you read about that. I read about those people every day. Saint Teresa of
Amazing.
Calcutta, yeah,
Amen.
Mother Teresa,
I've got
now
her
Saint Teresa of Calcutta.
biography right over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, and that's how
She's an
you do.
incredible woman.
Oh yeah, and that and struggled, and you read about her, and she had great doubts
Mm.
about herself, and not in her mind, not being faithful enough, not doing enough, and
Right.
which was the enemy picking on her kind of deal. But you're so right, is that we get encouraged and inspired and renewed by reading the stories and or living in the stories. I mean,
Mhm.
find people. There's people like that in the world today, and surround yourself with.
Well,
people that
since
are
we
like-minded.
are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, right?
Mhm.
Let us run the race. But sometimes we don't surround ourselves with the cloud of witnesses, man.
Yeah,
And so,
look at Judas. I mean, he had the perfect environment. 11 brothers and Jesus, and he
yeah,
turns his back on it all for greed and ego
no,
and sin. So,
it doesn't guarantee it. It still has to, you have to work with
yeah,
it, but you can create an environment that helps remind you of who you want to be.
yeah, and who God created you to be. I mean, Jeremiah,
Amen.
you know, God knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb, and He consecrated you before you were born. That means you're unique and you have a purpose, and it's a God-given one. Part of
Amen.
your
Let's
part of
go. Get me
yeah,
fired up on a Wednesday
part
afternoon, my man.
yeah, part of your journey is discovering, of what that purpose is. So, man, I'm gonna wrap this up, and I didn't realize it until you started talking. Today that we're recording this is January 21st.
Mm.
This is your anniversary of 2007, isn't
What?
it?
So, how many years is that? That is
That
almost 20, 19
19
years I've been
years.
walking with the Lord.
Yeah, and here we are on this
Wow.
very day recording this episode. And so
Come
it's
on.
like it's an anniversary present. So,
Yeah.
hey, Joshua, how can people reach out to you if they want to learn more from you directly? And you talked about a book that you wrote.
Yeah.
Give us the information on that.
Yeah, man. Joshua Delp. That's my Instagram handle. I'm on there regularly. Just getting out content that will add value to your life. So please follow me there. Risingleadership.org. That's my website. It's got some of my work with my different coaching programs, both Clarify Coaching and Risen Men, my coaching and accountability community for men. Really low price point. But it is an investment of my time. I'm giving you all the stuff I've learned over 19 years of walking with the Lord, but also growing as a leader. If you're a guy looking to level up, I've been working with men for decades now, and so I really got a burden to see men rise into the men God's made them to be. And this world is not trying to help that at all. And so
Yeah.
you can find out more about it there. And also, I wrote a book based on the coaching process called Clarify You. It's a free ebook, how to get unstuck, live with purpose, lead with courage. And it's really about the 7 or 8 blind spots that folks have that they just don't realize that keeps them stuck, keeps them in that place of not moving into all they're called to. And so it's short, but it is punching, man. And you can read it in like an hour or so. And I've heard it's a very engaging read. And so I'm so grateful. I'm hopefully going to publish it later this year. But right now, I'm inviting folks to read it for free. I'd love your feedback. And if I can help you with in any way, I do a free strategy session. You can grab one of those on risingleadership.org.
Awesome. So the book's on Amazon, and
No, it's on the website.
oh, it's on the website. Okay, so
Yep.
absolutely.
You can download it right there.
And give me one more time that website.
Risingleadership.org. Org.
Awesome. Joshua, what a blast to have you on today.
This flew by, man. I can't
Yeah,
believe we've been speaking an hour. That's great.
yeah, it's encouraging. It's inspiring for our listeners. We appreciate you so much. It's because of you. We're in 32 countries now on six
Come on.
continents, and please, you know, like, comment, share this episode is with somebody that needs to hear this message today, and reach out to Joshua, reach out to me for any, if you want that, we both do the same thing. We both do that free consultation thing. So reach out to us, man. Don't continue walking down that journey by yourself. We
Amen.
do it. We do it in community. We do it together, and together we can change our world, not just the whole world, but starting with where we're at right now. So, warriorservantleadership.com to reach out to me. Also on Instagram at Pat Welsh JD. And if you're on LinkedIn at Pat Welsh JD, join there. We have a great newsletter, a Warrior Servant Leader podcast newsletter, and we're pushing almost 1,000 subscribers to that. And by the way,
Yeah.
it's free. So love y'all. Be safe out there, and always strive to do the right things at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, because that's the path of a warrior servant and leader.
Come on.